Just saying names like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Dwayne McDuffie, and Todd McFarlane brings certain images to your mind. But today, I'd like to talk about some other creators who may not be as famous, but are trailblazers just the same. New York City in the 1970s, a time of bankruptcy, urban decay, high crime rates, also a time of a cultural renaissance in art, music, and nightlife. This is the era that Christopher Priest arrives at Marvel. Priest, then known as Jim Owsley, entered the comics industry as a Marvel Comics intern in 1978. He would join its editorial staff in 1979, working for Paul Lakin as a managing editor on Crazy Magazine and becoming the first African-American editor in mainstream comics. He next became assistant editor for Larry Hama on the Conan titles. It wasn't until 1983 where Owsley made his debut as a writer with issue number 1 of the Falcon miniseries. He later became full editor of all Spider-Man books from 1985 to 1986. Professional and personal disagreements eventually led to his leaving Marvel. Owsley's writing tenure on Power Man and Iron Fist concluded with Iron Fist's controversial death. Moving to DC Comics, Owsley had a run as a writer of Green Lantern, when the character was exclusive to the anthology series Action Comics Weekly. In 1993, he became part of the group of writers and artists that launched Milestone Media, a comic book publisher affiliated with DC Comics. He said that he had intended to become the company's editor-in-chief, but personal issues forced him to scale down his involvement. However, one of the highlights of this period is that he co-created Static, who of course would become the breakout star of Milestone Comics. Shortly afterward, he legally changed his name from Jim Owsley to Christopher Priest. He stated he was unaware of the British science fiction novelist Christopher Priest. After a decade-long absence from comics, Priest returned in 2014 to write a Quantum and Woody miniseries for Valiant Comics. He wrote the Rebirth version of Deathstroke in 2016 for DC Comics. He became the writer for Justice League in December 2017, but was replaced by Scott Snyder in 2018. Priest contributed a story to the Black Panther Annual number 1, released in February 2018. In 2019, he wrote Vampirella for Dynamite Comics and U.S. Agent for Marvel Comics. Priest is also a singer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist. He's a music producer who has written and produced dozens of tracks for himself and others. Priest is also an ordained minister, making Christopher Priest an actual priest. Love and Rockets may be unlike any other comic series ever. Written and drawn by the same two creators for over 40 years and remaining independent the entire time. The Hernandez brothers produce their stories independently of each other. Gilbert usually focuses on characters in the fictional Central American village of Palomar. The stories are slice-of-life based, but sometimes include magical elements. The Locust story of Jaime center on a social group in an unnamed city that looks and feels a lot like LA. His main characters are friends and sometimes lovers, Maggie and Hobie. Raised in Oxnard, California, the Hernandez brothers had been reading comics since childhood. Even though they collected Marvel's superhero books, it was the day-in-the-life storytelling and art of comics like Dennis the Menace and Little Archie that really inspired the brothers, especially Jaime. Originally, the brothers created comics for their own enjoyment. The stories they told were about things they knew, LA's punk scene and the queer community. And also, it was very important to both Jaime and Gilbert to focus on Latino characters. The Hernandez brothers self-published the first issue of Love and Rockets in 1981, then sent a copy of their book to the Comics Journal, a magazine published by Fantagraphics. They were hoping a review by the Comics Journal would help them sell more copies of the book. Gary Croft, the co-founder of Fantagraphics, was so impressed that not only did he review their book, he offered them a publishing deal. Love and Rockets became one of the biggest indie books of the 1980s. Jamie Hernandez quickly became one of the hottest artists in the industry. Soon both Marvel and DC made offers to the brothers. However, both Jamie and Gilbert chose to stick with Fantagraphics and keep doing things their own way. The magazine temporarily stopped publication in 1996. However, in 2001, the brothers revived the series, and Love and Rockets has continued ever since. Another thing that makes Love and Rockets different from almost any other ongoing series is that the characters have aged alongside their creators. Maggie has gone from a 20-something in the local punk scene to a woman in her early 60s. And through the years, she's been involved in a series of relationships and held various jobs, just like a real person. It seems the brothers have no intention of stopping Love and Rockets, as characters have had their own children and an entire new generation has developed over time.
Leading the way are the Hernandez brothers, the creators of Love and Rockets, which is, at 11 years, the oldest continuously published Latino comic book.
Sure, we had something to do with it. I think we had a lot to do with it. And part of the reason is just that we've stayed and kept doing it and you know, suffered the slings and arrows, you know, that sort of thing, the sticks and stones.
Thanks for spending some time talking comics and comics legends. If there's somebody that you'd like us to do a story on, leave it in the comments. While you're down there, like, subscribe, and do all those YouTube things. Till next time, see you in the Wolves Den.